everyone, and welcome to the Love Like Crazy podcast. We're your hosts, Jay and Stacy Coleman, and we are so glad that you decided to join us today and that you're listening in. We have a great topic for you today. In fact, I'm really kind of excited about this topic.
I know that you are excited about the content of this episode. But before we dive off into this, I want to remind everybody of something. First of all, thank you guys so much for being a part of this podcast and for sharing it with all your friends. You guys have done a great job of helping us to build this podcast, and we appreciate y'all so much. Continue to send us comments, continue to give us reviews. If you're liking what you're hearing, then like, subscribe, and share, and continue to help us get the word out, as we are all about building a stronger marriage and a stronger family. So, Stacy, what exactly is the topic for today?
Well, the topic that we're going to talk about today, we actually spoke on at our first Love Like Crazy marriage conference. And we were preparing to speak on this topic because we found that it was a common thread through a lot of the interviews that we've done. When we ask other couples, like, what is like some marriage advice that you would give, they would always respond with, well, we're best friends. And so the topic for today that we're going to talk about, we've titled it Friends with Benefit.
Now, that's a great title. Now, let me ask you this. When you hear that title, Friends with Benefits, what does your mind trend towards?
Well, immediately it makes you think about,
Spit it out.
Sex. Everybody thinks about sex.
Well, when you hear that phrase, friends with benefits, that's what everybody's mind trends towards. There's a movie some years back with that title, and that's kind of what everybody thinks about. But honestly, when you start thinking about friendship within marriage, being best friends with your spouse, the truth is that is a tremendous benefit.
It is.
That can be a part of that. But today we're going to talk about quite a few other things as well.
Yes, there's others.
And maybe we'll do an episode where we specifically talk about that topic. But let me just say it like this. It can be a tremendous benefit. As far as in that direction that you were talking about.
Yes.
But today we're going to talk about...
most people think.
Yeah, let me throw this out at you guys. 1 Corinthians chapter 7. I love how Paul writes this out. He's talking about marriage. He's talking about sharing the gospel. And he makes a phrase, and this is the Message translation I'm going to share with you today. He says, marriage involves you in all the nuts and bolts of domestic life. And we're going to stop right there. There's a lot more, and I don't want anybody to accuse me of taking scripture out of context, because that's not what I'm doing at all. What I want to talk about is the nuts and bolts of domestic life. There are a lot of things that go along with marriage. And we've talked about in past episodes, we've talked about all different types of things that it takes to invest in and build your marriage. And so, you talked about the trend within these couples that we would do these interviews with. Yeah. And we've always said that we're best friends with each other.
I think it was nice to hear them say the same thing.
Yeah, kind of. Okay. It was like, whoa, we're on the same track
right.
here.
Confirmation.
So let's go into this and let's talk about the different benefits that go along with it. And I think today, really what we want you guys to grab a hold of is you need to work on friendship within your marriage.
Yeah.
I think that is a powerful aspect of marriage. I think that it is what God has intended for us to have within marriage. We've talked about Genesis chapter 2, the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve in this beautiful environment. We know that that's where, original sin took place. But God brought them together. They were in unity. They were united with one another. And I have to believe that they were best friends. Now, somebody could say, is because they were the only ones there. They had no human beings on the face of the earth. That is correct. But they were the closest. Even if there had been tons of other people, they were going to be the closest because they were married and they were united. Right. So within your marriage, you need to strive for friendship. You need to build friendship within your marriage.
Yeah, friendship is something that you have to invest in continually. It's so that the benefits that we're about to talk about, can come about from developing the friendship within your marriage. So first one.
Well, before we do that, I want to tell everybody that there were some different discussions about what we should call this. And one of the things I came up with, well, let's call it besties for life or besties for the resties. And
I said, no, that sounds like middle school girls.
Yeah, she was like, it sounds kind of girly. So
yeah, kind of girly.
The suggestion was made, call it friends with benefits. We were like, love it. Let's roll with it. So let's talk about some of those benefits.
Okay, so the first benefit is vulnerability.
Now, one of the things we talked about in a past episode was in being vulnerable with your spouse. It's a good thing. It actually
Mhm.
builds your marriage. It makes you stronger as a man, and it makes you stronger as a woman, as a
Mhm.
wife. And when it comes to vulnerability, this is kind of the things that I think about is that if you're going to be best friends within your marriage, vulnerability is an awesome thing because it means you're going to talk about everything. You're going to communicate. Now we've talked about communication a lot on
Yeah.
this podcast, but honesty and openness with one another is everything.
Right. So the vulnerability is is like, we're best friends. When you're best friends, you talk all the time, you communicate all the time, you talk about everything,
Yeah.
right? And honesty, being honest and open about everything and through communication in your marriage is so extremely important. I can remember when we were dating, we were kind of we had a long distance relationship for quite some time, and we talked on the phone all the time. Now this was back
Before cell phones.
before cell phones.
Well, there were cell phones, but everybody didn't have. You were rich if you had a cell
That's
phone.
right. So we had a very large long distance bill because there was no such thing as unlimited long distance at that time. And so I was in Baton Rouge at college. You were in North Louisiana, and we began as we started dating. And I went back to school. We talked on the phone all the time, and unfortunately, we ran up this large bill. I don't remember having the little Sprint phone card, that it took me the whole next summer to pay off because we talked so much. And then also we were communicating through letters. Do you remember
Yeah.
that?
I still
We
have some of those love
we do
letters.
still have some of those letters, but just long front and back of a yellow legal tablet. You were writing letters to me, which is probably kind of uncommon to the
Yeah, I
younger
don't think
generation.
anybody writes. Young people are like, you wrote
We actually wrote it
to
down,
each other.
not text, but we wrote. And through all of these conversations, and whether we were on the phone or we were writing letters back and forth, we were communicating and getting to know each other better, and really being vulnerable with one another, discussing just everything, anything and everything. We were talking about it because we were getting to know one another, right? So that kind of aspect in our dating doesn't need to end once we get married. It needs to continue on with honest and open communication. What do you think?
Well, I do agree with that. And here's what I'm thinking about those love letters to each other now. If you're 20 something years old, you're just going to tell chat, was it GPT or GPX or whatever, hey, write a love letter to my woman,
Uh-huh.
or vice versa. And in writing those letters to each other, or even talking on the phone, we were sharing our heart with each other.
Yes.
We would really get in depth in conversation, and we were really
Developing that friendship.
developing friendship and really being
Hmm.
honest and open with one another. A lot of
Right.
times after people get married, that kind of goes out, off to the wayside. People think,
Right.
well, we don't have to talk about everything. I mean, we're together.
Right. Shouldn't you
And
know? Shouldn't you know what
yeah,
I'm
shouldn't
thinking?
you know those things
Hmm.
about me? And let me say this. I think that one of the things that is so powerful within your marriage is no secrets.
Right.
Secrets are one of those things that if you start developing the habit of keeping things from your spouse,
Yeah.
it's a dangerous place or a dangerous direction to go in. There was a commercial that was years ago, and it was a well-known car manufacturer that they had this where the dad was doing things with the kids, and he would make the comment over and over, "Don't tell dad." I'm sorry, "Don't tell mom."
Don't tell mom.
Don't tell
Yeah.
mom. They would do something that was a little bit dangerous. Oh, don't tell mom. And at the end of the commercial, it shows the mom doing something, and she says, "Don't tell dad." And basically, I used to hate that commercial. And the reason why is every time it would come on, I'd be like, they're training their kids to keep secrets from, not to
From one
tell
parent or
mom,
the
not to
other.
tell dad. And they're
To lie.
training them to keep secrets in life.
Hmm.
And so you need to have somebody in your life that you are open with, you are honest with, you are vulnerable with. And if you're married, it better be your
That's
spouse.
right. That's
And
right.
you
So
need to be able to
important.
sit down and have those conversations with each other. So I would say that when it comes to being able to have benefits within the friendship of marriage, vulnerability is always top of the list.
But it takes work too. It takes time. We want to think that maybe communication becomes easier. I think that's a myth. It doesn't always become easy because marriage takes work, and becoming and maintaining that friendship and continuing vulnerability also takes work. It takes time to get to know each other. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. And it is the choice to invest in your marriage, the
Yeah.
choice to be open and honest within your marriage.
Mhm.
There's a verse, Proverbs chapter 13, verse 17, that I love to throw out there. And this is the Living Bible. It says, reliable communication permits progress.
Mhm.
And I love that verse. I've used that verse throughout the years, because if you want to move forward in your marriage, if you want progress within your marriage, then there better be great communication within your marriage. And great communication means that you are vulnerable. There's no secrets.
Mhm.
You're not keeping anything from your spouse. You're not trying to cover anything up. And when you think about being best friends with somebody, it means you're sharing everything with that
Mhm.
person, what you're
Yeah.
thinking, what you're feeling, what your fears are, what your insecurities are. And the cool part about friendship is you have somebody there that in those moments where you're being vulnerable, they're going to build you up, they're going to encourage you, they're going to pray with you. And I know for us,
Yeah.
that's kind of one of the things that has been there all throughout the years. It's like when we talk something through, then you're like, hey, let me pray with you. Or I'm like, hey, let me
Mhm.
pray with you about that. And man, it's just great to be able to have a best friend in that regards.
Well, I think praying together um, is when you are praying together, you are working on becoming even more vulnerable to one another.
I
About
agree.
your needs and so forth.
Well, let me say this as well. The communication or vulnerability,
Mm-hmm.
there's a right way and a wrong way to do that.
True.
Okay. One of the things that I love to teach young couples is that we're sitting down and we're counseling together. Is that when it comes to communication, there's a right time for communication and there's a wrong time for communication. In other words, if your husband is right smack dab in the middle of a ball game, New Orleans Saints are on TV, they're playing. I'm more of an LSU Tigers fan, but they're playing. That's not the time to sit down and discuss your feelings or what you're
Right.
walking through, because you're probably not going to have his full attention.
Right.
So there's a right time and a wrong, right time and a wrong time for communication. Another thing that is, you need to take in mind is that there's the right way and wrong way to communicate. I've shared this story before that whenever I'd only been married for probably about 3 or 4 years. I remember I came in from the office one day. You had the babies at that point,
Mm-hmm.
and you had been working on whatever it was for dinner. Well, we had recently eaten dinner at some friend's house, and she had made some chicken
Oh,
enchiladas.
yes, I do remember
And
this.
I'm not trying to stir up bad memories for you, but this is once again one of these areas where I was immature and I really did not understand how to communicate properly.
Mhm.
So this was definitely a wrong time for communication in this regards. As we began to talk about what was for dinner, oh, you said, oh, I've cooked this. And I said, you know what? I'd really love it if you would learn to cook chicken enchiladas like so and so. Well, I probably didn't say it in the right way. You immediately got defensive, and I remember it turning into a disagreement with one another. Some people would say an argument or a fight,
Mhm.
but it was definitely one of those moments where I learned the right time, the right way to
I can't
communicate
I
or
can't
not
say
communicate.
I can't say that I ever really made those enchiladas,
Yeah,
or I don't think I did.
I do not ever recall eating a chicken enchilada out of your kitchen.
No,
Now,
probably
I've
not.
had chicken enchiladas at some great Mexican restaurants, but never has that occurred.
Yes.
Maybe I traumatized you from that. And
I think you did.
you're like
I
it's,
think
and
you
when
did.
you think about chicken enchiladas and cooking them, I don't know, maybe it triggers you, and you're like, I'm never cooking that.
I got really good at cooking a few other things, but not chicken enchiladas.
Yeah, and I'll say this: as much as even though you tell me I don't like to cook, you've actually there are quite a few things that you're
Mhm.
really good at
Mhm.
cooking.
Yeah, it's just not my favorite thing to do. But
Yeah.
yeah, especially when the boys were younger. Yeah, I cooked a few different things, just not chicken
All right,
enchiladas.
let's move on from this subject because
We're just
this
being
is
vulnerable about
well,
this
this is a
situation.
minefield that I'm navigating right now, so I got to be very careful. So,
Yeah.
best friends, what are one of the greatest benefits that you could ever have within the friendship of marriage is vulnerability. You're open with each other,
Mhm.
you're honest
Honest.
with each
No
other. There's
secrets.
no secrets, as the writer in Proverbs tells us. You
Yeah.
are moving forward. Reliable communication permits progress. You're moving forward and
Mhm.
building your marriage.
Mhm.
And I would tell you this as well. Before we move on to the next benefit, let me say this. I think it is great that we talked about praying. It is
Yeah.
great to talk about uh, praying together.
Mhm.
It is great to talk about if you have things that you want to discuss with your spouse, pray about them before
Oh,
you talk
that would
about
be
them.
good.
Whether
Yes.
it's talking about something with the kids or the in-laws, or it might be a work situation that has come up, or maybe an issue within the marriage that you really need to talk things
Yeah.
over with,
Yeah, because if
pray
there's a
about it.
problem or some type of maybe you're not seeing eye to eye, I would definitely pray about, pray about whatever the situation is and then approach having a conversation and being open and
And
honest with one another.
being open and vulnerable with each other.
Yes.
All right. So
Yes.
what's the next benefit?
Okay, the next benefit is intimacy.
You want to take this one or you want me to roll with it?
I'll let you go
All
first
right. This
and then I'll
is
jump in.
the topic that my wife is very conservative. This is a topic that whenever it comes to this, she doesn't like saying the word.
Uh-huh.
What's the word, Stacy?
The word is sex.
Sex or
Hmm.
sexual. She doesn't like going in that direction.
I've
But
said that word before.
here's why I love this one, because one of the greatest benefits of friendship within marriage is intimacy with each other. Now,
Yeah.
here's the direction I'll take this in. When you were newlyweds, you did romantic things for each other. And this is not
Hmm.
necessarily talking about the topic of sex. This is talking about the closeness that you share
Yeah.
with one another. When you were newlyweds, you did things for each other. You were very romantic with each other.
Hmm.
I'll say it like this: your sex life was sizzling.
Mm.
And then over the
Okay.
course of time, is it okay to say that?
Oh, sure. Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then over the course of time, those romantic things kind of can fall by the wayside. You stop serving one another within the marriage, and it goes from sizzle to kind of simmer.
Mm.
And the
Hmm.
heat maybe is not there that you once, you know, enjoyed within your marriage. And now you're wondering what is happening. Well, let me say this to you. Friendship means that you learn the art of romance.
The
You
art
learn
of
the
romance. Okay.
Proverbs chapter 5, verse 19 tells us, it's speaking about the woman, the wife here. It says, she is as lovely and graceful as a deer. Let her love always make you happy. Let her love always hold you captive. Friendship within the marriage means that you are captivated with your
Hmm.
spouse.
Hmm.
Now, Proverbs here is speaking about the wife. And in that regards, husbands, you should always be captivated by your wife. Wives, you should always be captivated by
Yes.
your husband. Uh, and I'm going to say this to you: if you want to turn up the heat in your marriage, you need to put action to your feelings. You need to be able to start to do things for one another and really romance each other.
Hmm. Well, and I think it's good to know that intimacy is more than just having sex, right? It's the closeness, it's the openness, it's the intimacy within our friendship that makes all the rest of that better.
That's what really makes that,
Hmm.
you know, to be at the place where you're as close as you want to be.
Right. That's right.
So I'm going to say this to you: do things for each other. Look for ways to serve each other, because that actually is turning up the heat within your marriage. Let me tell you about a time where I really threw a bucket of water on our intimacy. It was the first year we were married. I was excited about being married to you. We were celebrating that first anniversary, and I wanted to get you something special for our anniversary. So
Okay.
I went
Yeah, I remember
shopping.
this.
First things first, I went shopping with a friend, and we went shopping to Walmart. Now the hold up. The issue is, immediately some of you are like, you went shopping for an anniversary gift at Walmart. That's the
Big
first problem
spender.
with this story.
That is the first problem.
Well, I was 20 years old.
I
I was
know,
young,
I
did
know.
not
And
we
we
didn't
only
have a
had
whole
we only had so much fun. So I
so go
understand.
shopping, and I see this gift that I want to purchase for you. I bought it, wrapped it up, gave it to you. You opened it up. The gift
Hmm.
was
A waffle iron.
it was a waffle iron. And I remember you were like, "Why did you buy me a waffle iron?" And I'm like, "I like waffles."
And
And
you wanted me to make you
I
waffles
wanted you to
because cooking is my favorite thing
yeah.
in the whole world.
So let me just say this: big mistake on my part. It was not very romantic. It was not very thoughtful. Honestly, it was kind of selfish for me to get, because I'm thinking about myself. Now I know it was our
Mhm.
anniversary, but I really should have got something for you. And so,
So it's a good thing that you saved the receipt for that gift because I do believe that you returned it,
you,
correct?
I'm pretty sure that I did.
Yeah.
But, I've shared the story before. I made up with that years later for our 15-year anniversary, took you out to a very nice restaurant, had bought you an anniversary ring. That's the ring that has I think the 3
The
diamonds
3
on it.
diamonds.
And I wanted to get you something special for 15 years. And
Yeah.
so in the course of talking with each other, it was kind of like, if there's anything different you could do in this marriage, what would you do? And I'm like, well, I would, change the way that I proposed to you. And you were like, really? What would you do? And I'm like, I do it like this. And about that moment, a waiter came in with the ring, displayed on a plate with rose petals and all that. And you
Mhm.
were all crying.
Oh,
You started
yeah.
crying. And so that was just a really special moment.
Yes, it was.
And it was one of those things that made the moment very, very romantic, but it also turned up the heat, just saying. Okay. So
Yeah, it probably did.
now you probably don't think that romance is all that, a lot of guys don't think romance is all that important. Well, I won her heart.
Well, I also want you to add in that whenever you bought that ring from me, you were paying close attention. You were listening to me because I kept seeing this commercial with this beautiful anniversary ring, the 3 diamonds that stand for the past, present, future. And I said, "Oh, I would love a ring like that." Never thinking that that would actually be a gift.
Yep.
And so I was so surprised. And yes, you definitely romanced me that night.
Well,
You did good,
I think a lot of guys, they think, well, romance is not that important after we get married
but it
because
is.
I've already won her heart. I'm
Mm-hmm.
already married, and this is what I'm going to tell you. From the day you say I do to the day you draw your final breath, you better be romancing your wife.
Yeah.
You better be speaking her love language. You better look for ways to romance her because what that does, it keeps your hearts close to one another. It keeps the fires burning. It keeps that
Mm-hmm.
friendship growing and moving forward. And it means that your intimacy level more than, and you said this, it's more than just sex. It keeps that intimacy level growing and you trust that person and love that person in such a wonderful way. It's an openness and a closeness. So we're talking about the benefits of friendship within marriage. And the first thing we talked about vulnerability. The
Vulnerability.
second thing we talked about intimacy. Stacy, take the next one.
Okay, so the next one is trust. Um, yeah, it's so important that we have, trust between us, and that you know that you can trust me to take care of my responsibilities. Um,
I, you can trust me to take care of my
yes, and
responsibilities.
that that my affections are towards you at all times. That you can trust my commitment towards our marriage, towards our family, and as my husband, you can also trust me to represent you well, with my words, and that's also talked a lot about in Proverbs 31, about the Proverbs 31 woman. But, if I were to give any advice to our listeners, I would say, our spouse needs to be able to trust us. And so when they do trust us, that means that we're not going to run them down to other people. We're not going to talk poorly of them to their face or behind their back. We're going to be trustworthy
Yeah,
in this relationship.
you know that when your spouse, when you're not together, that they're speaking things of you
Mhm.
that are good.
Yes.
I want to say this because you said something earlier about me, ha- having eyes for you only. That's not something that came from me. I remember years ago, and the minister probably did not even remember this. There was a friend of mine. We were spending some time together, and before we parted ways that day, we prayed for each other.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
he probably didn't even realize that he had said this, but he was praying over our marriage. He was praying over our family. And he said, Lord, I thank you that you give Jay eyes only for his wife. And that just kind of stuck with me.
Mhm.
It was one of those things that just kind of stuck in my heart. And I started praying that from then on out, that within our marriage, that you and I would only have eyes for each other.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of one of those things that, I trust you 100%. In conversation, I know that you feel the same way. You trust me. And it's just one of those benefits of friendship within marriage. And so we're talking about the benefits, and everybody's mind always goes in one direction, and it can go in that
Right.
direction.
Right.
And what's the word, Stacy?
Sex.
Yeah, it can go in that direction, but I think that these other benefits are so much more valuable. When you start talking about vulnerability, when you start talking about trust, when you start talking about intimacy, those things are powerful because they make your marriage strong, they make your marriage
Mhm.
healthy, and there's a bond there that we know this world will do its best to try to erode and tear apart marriage just because we know the divorce rates. But when these things are within your marriage, it is so hard for the world to sow those seeds within your
Well, you're
life.
safeguarding your marriage from divorce and from other things whenever you're developing that friendship.
Yeah, and it's, one of the things we talked about quite a bit is you're investing in your marriage. You're not investing in your marriage
You're
for
working on your marriage continually.
building it for the long haul. And so I think that this is a good topic for us to, because we talk about friendship a
All the
lot.
time, yes.
And so, what a great topic for us to have been able to discuss today. And I would say this to you: friends with benefits, or that friendship, that being best friends within your marriage, is so powerful to build your marriage.
Mhm.
And so, we hope that y'all have enjoyed this topic today. Remember that vulnerability, trust, intimacy,
Intimacy.
work towards friendship within your marriage because it is a powerful, powerful thing.
Yes.
So, I hope y'all have enjoyed this. I've had a lot of fun with
I
this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And once again, don't forget, if you are enjoying this podcast, like, subscribe, share, help us get the word out, share a comment, give us a review, and we look forward to the next episode with you guys. As always, I'm Jay,
And I'm Stacy.
and this is Love Like Crazy.